Hi, my name's Philippa Brewer. I wanted to tell a story about using English as an international language. I took a business trip one time to France where I was supposed to give a presentation on using a debugging tool to the other people that were attending the meeting. At the meeting there were, of course, a bunch of people from France, a couple of people from India, a guy from Germany, and I think people from a couple other countries, European countries, were there. And they all spoke English well enough to have successfully made their way to the city, so they could book plane tickets. They could get from the airport to their hotel. They could get from their hotel to the firm's site where I was giving the presentation. They could get to the meeting on time. But they did not speak English well enough to understand my presentation. As soon as I started, I realized that most of the people at the meeting were not understanding what I was saying. There were 2 or 3 people that spoke English very well, who had obviously not only studied English for years, but had almost certainly traveled or perhaps even lived in an English-speaking country for a long enough period of time to really learn the language. But nobody else was understanding what I was saying. So I tried the basic stuff that you always do when something like that happens. I tried slowing down, I tried repeating things, I tried explaining things in different words. When I could see that it still wasn't working, I basically gave up, and I just made my presentation to the 2 or 3 people that I could see were understanding what I was saying, and figured that I would rely on them to explain it to their colleagues in whatever language they used when they were not all trying to speak English. And I remember thinking at the time what a waste it was that all of these people had spent years learning English, but not learning it well enough to actually understand what a colleague was saying, even when he was talking about something that was in their field. These were all software people who should have been able to understand the tool that I was trying to teach them how to use, but trying to learn how to use it in English was beyond their language capabilities. If they had put a bare fraction of the time and effort into learning Esperanto that they had obviously all put into learning English, they would have had the capability. They would have had the language capability that they needed to learn how to use that tool. Now, I can see why they didn't. There probably isn't any company that would have hired them because they spoke Esperanto, whereas they managed to get a good job because they spoke English well enough to at least pass an interview, if not actually be completely functional in English in the context where the company was hoping that they would have been. That's why I like Esperanto. It's not more useful than English. It's probably not even as useful as English, but it's more fun than English. It's more fair than English, and it's more satisfying to use. That's why I'm so pleased to use Esperanto as a language. It lets me meet people on an equal footing, where neither one of us has the advantage of speaking our native language, and it lets me be more successful in being understood and at understanding what other people say when neither one of us is a native speaker, or when either one of us is not a native speaker of the language. That's why I pick Esperanto.